President Duterte is now in Vietnam for the APEC summit. Ina Andalong tells us about the president's high-level meetings with some world leaders.
His itinerary at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Summit in Vietnam is packed with meetings with fellow state leaders and business executives. APEC is a forum of 21 member states pushing for free trade in the Pacific Rim. Apart from the regular meetings, President Duterte will have high-level bilaterals, which many are watching out for. Although it hasn't been officially confirmed, the president is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump. With President Xi, President Duterte says he wants to finally confront China on the issue of freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. He says it's about time for him to raise this issue either in a bilateral meeting with Xi or in one of the plenary meetings to find out just how safe Filipinos traversing the South China Sea are. It's a bold move considering how friendly the president is to China.
I do not take it against China. He has claimed every part of it and nobody stopped him. So, tanungin ko lang siya, what are the stakes? You want to control the passage or do we have the free passage? Unbridled, undisturbed, unmolested, while we use that small way.
President Duterte and U.S. President Trump will meet face-to-face for the first time in Vietnam, while more extensive discussions between the two leaders are expected to happen at the ASEAN summit in Manila next week. President Duterte revealed the topics he expects to tackle with President Trump. These are trade, extremism, terrorism, and the South China Sea. President Duterte is also wary of human rights issues, which may be asked to him. This concerns the killings in his drug war, which has received a lot of international attention. He already has a ready answer in case this issue against him is raised.
Lay off. That's not your business. That is my business. I take care of my country and I will nurture my country to health.
The president will return to Manila on the 11th in time for the ASEAN summit, which many leaders attending the meeting in Vietnam will also be attending. Ina Andalong, CNN Philippines.
President Duterte confirmed telling Dangerous Drugs Board Chief Joniso Santiago to resign. Mr. Duterte said he was offended by a statement made by Santiago saying that the mega drug rehabilitation facility in Nueva Ecija was a mistake. Here's the president in his own words.
I came up with a very incongruous statement that I was offended. He could have asked me for an audience and then tell me all about it. Kaya kita nilagay dyan not to issue statements to the press. Nilagay kita dyan para magpunta ka sa akin kung anong problema natin ng sa bayan natin at turuan mo ako kung nagkulang ako kung anong dapat kong gawin.
The president has yet to announce Santiago's successor. More local stories later. Here are some top stories from around the world. U.S. President Donald Trump is now in Beijing, China for the third leg of his Asian tour. Trump, together with U.S. First Lady Melania, Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife toured the Forbidden City, the historic palace that housed Chinese emperors and their families for almost 500 years. Trump receives the honor of becoming the first foreign leader to dine inside the Forbidden City since the founding of the People's Republic in 1949. North Korea responds to President Trump's speech in South Korea. The U.S. president said continued nuclear provocation from Pyongyang will result in its destruction. North Korean officials tell CNN's Will Ripley, quote, "We don't care about what that mad dog may utter. We've heard enough." North Koreans say Trump's words will not affect plans for upcoming military tests. They're also accusing the U.S. of trying to ignite another war in the peninsula. And investigators are learning more about the shooter who killed 26 people during a church service in what is deemed the deadliest shooting rampage in the U.S. state of Texas. Police say Devin Patrick Kelly escaped from a mental health facility in 2012, months after he was accused of abusing his ex-wife and her child. As the country marks the fourth year of the super typhoon Yolanda, officials in charge of rebuilding Marawi City assure the public they have learned their lessons from Yolanda. And former President Benigno Aquino is facing charges before the Sandigan Bayan over his alleged involvement in the Mama Sapano clash. Good evening to all of you joining us here on Facebook Live. Coming up for you in the next segment of Newsroom, we have a story for you, an update on Yolanda. It's been 4 years on, and we're looking at rehabilitation, and some groups are criticizing efforts for failing to provide much-needed facilities or infrastructure for the survivors, such as homes. So the latest on that, as well as stories from inside Marawi. Also on Marawi moving forward, international terrorism expert Sidney Jones talks about this situation now that the battle may be over, but there is still quite a fight and some concerns he mentions. We also have an update on the ombudsman filing criminal charges against President Aquino for his involvement in the 2015 Mama Sapano clashes. We'll also bring you perhaps some updates on ASEAN, on the upcoming ASEAN summit in 2017. We also want to tell you about a very interesting roundtable session that we'll be having tomorrow on Newsnight. I'll be sitting in for Pia Ontiveros. This is at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll be talking about the success of Filipinas in beauty queen pageant. So we'll be having beauty queen maker Jonas Gafud here live in the studio, as well as Adam Henato, pageant expert and a correspondent on Sash Factor. So we'll be talking about what's making, what factors perhaps, or what is it about our Filipino beauties that's making them win in various pageants around the world. So please make sure to tune in tomorrow for that 6 o'clock and 7 p.m. on Newsnight. And we are getting a lot of greetings from around the world. We love hearing from you. We want to say hello to Victor Solomon, also Cesar Lomboy watching from Seattle, Washington, Jensen Hormiliosa, a regular viewer from San Pedro, Laguna, Arnold Aquiler watching from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Merce Tulin, who joins us from Hong Kong, Maria Cristina Villanueva from Osaka, Japan, Edita San Antonio watching from the UAE, Jojo Noble from Washington, D.C., Bong Herrera from Kuwait, Marilu Lapus from Singapore, Charlene Bakulan watching in Taiwan, Lit Velez from Singapore, Cesar Lomboy watching from Seattle, Washington, Mary De Leon watching from Taiwan. Also, Benson Santa Ana is watching from Taytay, Rizal, while waiting for CNN Profiles. Well, thank you. Glad you tuned in, and thanks for supporting us here on CNN Philippines. Moralista Dakshiani is watching from Singapore. Cheva Gon Shega is watching from Alcobar in KSA, Saudi Arabia. Agnes Balmores Balala is watching from Brunei. Judy Lau from Quezon City, hello to you. Pom Zepching. And our favorite sociologist, Nicole Curato, is joining us here. Hello to you. Redentor Galzote is watching from Jeddah. Eddie Woznicki III joining us in the USA from Colorado. Jongjong Suico General Ata from Jeddah. William Hondaneros watching from Dubai. Abdulaziz Biste Aradais is watching from Zamboanga. Carlos Behenia Zapanta is watching from Marawi. Emorej Loares from Imus, Cavite. Gina Cardenas watching from Malaysia. And also we have Real Salvadico Romero watching from Agusan del Sur saying the best news. Thank you for joining us here. Stay tuned for more greetings later and more stories coming your way. You're back in the newsroom on CNN Philippines. It's exactly 4 years since Super Typhoon Yolanda struck the Visayas and left more than 6,000 dead and hundreds of thousands homeless. Now, nonprofit research organization Ibon claims the government failed in its rehabilitation program for Yolanda victims. Ibon reveals of the more than 200,000 housing units to be built, only 50,000 have been completed. Of these 50,000 units, only 27% are occupied. There are also areas with no basic services, like in Eastern Visayas, where only 5 of the 86 resettlement areas have water supply.
They're supposed to make permanent shelters. Pero ang nangyari is they made temporary shelters which can be demolished in 9 months and thereby increasing their budget.
For its part, the National Housing Authority blames local governments for the delay in the housing projects. The agency claims local officials were slow in giving them the list of beneficiaries. It also says it had difficulty looking for land as resettlement areas, but it promises to finish building all the houses by mid-next year. The challenge of rehabilitating Marawi has been compared to Tacloban when the province was hit by Super Typhoon Yolanda 4 years ago. Officials estimate it will take many years before the Islamic city can return to its pre-war state. But they insist the mistakes in the rehabilitation of Yolanda-hit areas will not be repeated. Our Rex Remitio has this report.
Mauna Elias says the war totally destroyed his home in Barangay Lilod Madaya in Marawi City. Elias and his family of 8 kids are staying in an evacuation center in Baloy, Lanao del Norte for now.
Gusto namin na kumbaga makabangon kami na yung tinitira namin na gusto ko na mapalitan agad.
But his wish seems like a long shot as they're not yet allowed to return home in the war zone. Temporary homes on Marawi's border may be available by December 15. But Elias's name is not on the initial list of beneficiaries.
Kung papalarin kami, nabigyan kami ng kahit kunting bahay, di okay lang. Kahit lang, basta simple, basta matiran lang.
Officials in charge of rehabilitating Marawi promise not to repeat the mistakes made in Tacloban. 4 years after Yolanda, only about half of the houses for the victims are complete. Marawi Mayor Mahul Gandamra is confident they can meet the December 15 and succeeding deadlines for giving homes.
At ongoing po yung constructions. In fact, patapos na po yung road network. At ngayon ay yung mga foundation work na lalagyan ng mga temporary shelters are ongoing din.
Yung planning natin is also based on the experience we had in the past, yung Yolanda.
Lanao del Sur Crisis Management Committee spokesperson Zia Alonto Adjong is urging Congress to include Marawi's rehabilitation in the 2019 budget. Their proposed budget is pegged 48 billion pesos.
We have to be clear-cut on how and where does a specific allocation would go to.
Officials also say all donations must be accounted for and reach the intended beneficiaries. They insist politics should not be involved in the rehabilitation process, unlike what happened in Yolanda.
We urge our fellow government officials, fellow public servant na iwasan less politics in terms of itong pag-rehabilitate and reconstruct.
Hopes to bring Marawi's beauty are high. As to whether government can achieve its goals, only time will tell. In Marawi City, Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
The death of Maute leaders is a huge success on the part of the government. But an international terrorism expert says the battle may be won, but the war is not over. Sidney Jones says many questions are still unanswered and many heads are still unaccounted for. Although the armed forces of the Philippines had claimed that Maute's financier, Dr. Mahmoud Ahmad, was killed, Jones says this is not yet conclusive since there is no body and DNA samples yet to prove the military's claim. The same goes for Malaysian Amin Bako.
I think you make faulty assumptions that if, for example, Amin Bacho was found or maybe he was taken into custody or killed, that's the end of the problem. When in fact, there may be other much more important figures who need to be followed.
Jones says it's quite unlikely that another Marawi crisis will take place, but warns of a more sinister threat, bomb attacks in urban areas. Jones says a close watch must be kept on the widows and children of the terrorists. She says they will play a critical role and even fuel the resentment of the followers. The expert adds it would also help if an independent group would carry out an overall assessment of the Marawi siege. The Office of the Ombudsman has filed criminal charges against former President Noynoy Aquino before the Sandigan Bayan for his involvement in the 2015 Mamasapano clash. Over 70 individuals, including 44 Special Action Force troopers, died in the bloody incident. Aquino is facing 1 count each of graft and usurpation of authority. His indictment comes almost 2 months after Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales ruled with finality on September 11 that Aquino is liable for the botched operation. The Ombudsman is going after Aquino for allowing then-suspended PNP Chief Alan Purisima to play an active role in Oplan Exodus. Aquino's bail is set at 30,000 pesos for the graft charge and 10,000 pesos for usurpation of authority. The same charges were earlier filed against Purisima and former Special Action Forces Director Getulio Napeñas for the incident. Aquino's political party, Partido Liberal, defends the former president. In a statement, it says no father of any nation will make a decision that will endanger his people. It also believes Aquino will prove his innocence in court. The Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption hits the Office of the Ombudsman for preempting the Supreme Court. The VACC has a pending petition before the Supreme Court questioning the Ombudsman's supposed inferior information against Aquino. The Justice Department wraps up its preliminary investigation into the multi-billion peso shabu shipment from China. Respondents, including former customs officials, reiterate their innocence. Anjo Alimario has more.
Fake news masquerading as a legal document. That's how former Customs Intelligence Chief Neil Estrella describes the complaint filed by the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency against him and other customs officials. This is in connection with the 6 billion peso shabu shipment that slipped through customs in May. And as the Justice Department terminates its preliminary investigation, Estrella says he already feels vindicated.
We were able already to satisfy the panel. Sa ngayon pa lang, sa pakiramdam namin, nasagot namin lahat yung mga tanong nila at yung mga sinasabi nilang malalabong sitwasyon ay naipaliwanag po natin na maayos.
Estrella insists the complaint against him should be dismissed.
Just to, again, to emphasize, wala po kaming kinakatakutan dito, malinis po ang konsensya namin. Ito pong drugs na to, hinuli po natin, nirecover natin para hindi lumabas sa lipunan. Kami ho ang gumawa nun. At lahat ng suspects na sinasabi lang involved dito sa drug shipment, kami rin po ang nagdala sa investigation sa National Bureau of Investigation.
Former Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faeldon says allegations against him are nothing but hearsay and products of fertile imagination. The consolidated complaints are now submitted for resolution, but the handling prosecutor admits it will take time.
Hindi ko rin naman siguro agad ito mariresolve within the next few days, at considering the complexities of the case and the issues involved, nag-interlock na eh.
Prosecutor Reyes noted the Ombudsman's own fact-finding mission and says the DOJ is focusing on the violations of the Dangerous Drugs Act.
Eh baka siguro hindi ko nagalawin yung anti-graft. Di ba? Total, magpa-fact-finding sila. Mag-concentrate lang ako doon sa Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act. Hindi natin alam, ha?
As for the respondents, they welcome the Ombudsman's move.
We're also happy dun sa announcement ng Ombudsman that they will also conduct their own investigation. Sa tingin naman namin, fair din ang Ombudsman.
The public's attention now shifts to the panel of prosecutors who will ultimately decide if there's probable cause to file cases against some or all of the respondents in the biggest haul yet of shabu in the country this year. Anjo Alimario, CNN Philippines.
No hitches as authorities execute the final dry run of the traffic management plan for the upcoming ASEAN summit. Early this morning, a convoy of 9 vehicles smoothly traveled from Clark International Airport in Pampanga to various establishments in Metro Manila. The ASEAN Security Task Force Traffic Management Technical Working Group led the activity. It included the positioning of orange barriers on EDSA from Balintawak to Pasay City. That's to separate the 2 ASEAN lanes from the lane for other vehicles. The orange barriers will again be put in place Saturday morning. Right now, there's a partial lockdown around CCP Complex. Complete lockdown in other areas will take effect from November 11th to 15th.
Malaking tulong yung araw-araw na briefing, araw-araw na orientation, 50 to 100 meters. Makikita nyo kung gaano ka-visible lahat ng puwersa, from enforcers to Philippine National Police to HPG, mga cycle units natin, mobile patrol, ambulansya. Ang priority natin dito, security ng mga delegado natin. 20 to 22 world leaders ang pupunta rito sa bansa. At wala tayong ibang kailangang intindihin kundi yung kapakanan nila.
This year's summit, which celebrates 50 years of ASEAN, will be attended by Southeast Asian and world leaders and thousands of delegates. It's business as usual for SM Mall of Asia during the ASEAN summit. It will be open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. from November 11th to 15th. However, MAAX S Maison and SMX Convention Center will be closed on November 12th and will resume normal operations the next day. Visit the mall's Facebook page for more details. It also released a rerouting scheme for commuters who will be affected by lockdowns en route to the mall. And despite special non-working holidays from November 13th to 15th, Land Bank says its branches in the NCR, Bulacan, and Pampanga will remain open to customers. Visit the Land Bank website or Facebook page for the list of branches that will be open. Coming up, we check out the full track list of Taylor Swift's new album, Reputation. And more music updates. Paramore returns to the country for a concert. The details after the break. Newsroom will be right back. Good evening to all of you joining us here on Facebook Live. Coming up for you in the final segment of Newsroom, entertainment news. So for those of you who are fans of Taylor Swift, perhaps you want to, or you already have access to her new album. We'll tell you more about the track list on her latest album, Reputation, as well as the band Paramore. They will be coming to the Philippines next year for a concert. We'll also be telling you about the most visited city in the world, which has been named for this year, 2017. We'll also bring you a taste of Christmas. We'll take you to a little Christmas village, so stay tuned for that. Some nice visuals coming your way and more stories. We are getting a lot of greetings on Facebook Live. Thank you to all of you who watch us here and spend your time with us, your evenings or mornings, wherever you are in the world. Hello to Faiza Mamiscal, who's watching from Damam, Saudi Arabia, Renato Rodriguez from New Hampshire in the U.S., Victor Muyanga from Mozambique, Anthony Irinco Jr. watching from Caloocan, Kid Joe Ruiz from Damam, Saudi Arabia, Wenzi Mendoza watching in South Korea, Robertson Lim in Napoli, Italy, Fez Sumbad watching in Hong Kong, Abrasado Nats from Belgium, Jerry Dureza, Davao Oriental, Danny Ong from Singapore, Manuel Alegados watching from Australia, also Gina Cardenas watching from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. We also have Criticos Duarte watching from Zamboanga City, Yantoy watching from Cebu City, Lilibeth Liguden watching from Novaliches, Rogelio Limbaros watching from Najran, KSA Nice News CNN. Well, thank you that you're able to for tuning in with us here and getting your news from CNN Philippines. Benson Santa Ana is excited to see Jonas Gafud tomorrow, which reminds me to tell all of you, if you guys would like to join, would like to listen in on a very interesting roundtable discussion on beauty queens, Filipinas winning, taking home the crown at beauty pageants around the world. Jonas Gafud, beauty queen maker, will join us tomorrow for a roundtable discussion at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Newsnight. I'll be sitting in for Pia Ontiveros. Also with us will be Adam Henato, a pageant expert. So tune in for their expertise on what's making Filipinas win, what X factor they might have now. More greetings. Lani Grace Visperas of Taiwan is watching from Taiwan. We also have Anthony Irinco, I said that already, from Caloocan. Kid Joe Ruiz watching from KSA. Also, Brian Ibrahim says good evening. Joyce Batulas watching from Palo Leyte. Poms Yapching says super typhoon after super typhoon, and there are people who still think climate change isn't real. We also have Bill Swan saying good morning from Chicago. Thank you for your nice words and glad you can join us from all the way there. Melvi Adeline Reyes says Typhoon Yolanda victims didn't receive the relief goods as they were not delivered to them. She's very frustrated. The company she worked for collected dry goods to help. She doesn't know if they were delivered. Hello to Russell Santiago. Maraming salamat. Mario Medusa Bonza watching from Japan. Thank you for all your greetings. Stay with us until the end of the show. Welcome back. American singer-songwriter Taylor Swift unveils the track list for her new album, Reputation. This comes 3 days ahead of its official release. The singer revealed the song titles in an Instagram post after details leaked online earlier in the day. The new album features 15 songs, with 4 of it previously released as singles. Among the eye-catching new tracks is Endgame, that features British singer Ed Sheeran and rapper Future. Swift previously collaborated with Sheeran in her song Everything Has Changed. Paramore fans, listen up. The American rock band is returning to the country for a concert next year. Event organizer MMI Live announced on Facebook the band's Tour 4 will be held on February 18th at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay City. Ticket prices range from 1,300 to 8,000 pesos. Tickets will go on sale on November 23rd. It's Paramore's third concert in the country. Among the band's hits are Decode, Ignorance, and Still Into You. For the 9th year in a row, Hong Kong has held onto its crown as the world's most visited city. Revealing the results of its 2017 Top 100 City Destination Survey, market researcher Euromonitor International says Hong Kong pulled in 26 million visitors in 2016. The number is also predicted to balloon up to 44 million by 2025.